What is up? Welcome back to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin mining stocks. And as you might see already, if you've been watching these videos, Mara, the number 2 miner now, Iron, passing it up. We'll get into that in a couple minutes. Let's take a look at some macro charts. Fear and greed for the stocks in neutrality territory, and as far as crypto, we are in neutrality as well. So a little bit of a pullback for stocks and crypto, hanging around neutrality as we zoom out. We've been talking about how we've seen these higher lows and are hoping that this area holds, but we are definitely in a downward trend. So are we going to have another bearish September? That is typically the case. And I'm not just saying that all because it usually happens. It has to happen, but it is the worst month on average for crypto. We have possible rate cuts coming this month, so maybe some of that is going to be priced in. Also, we had a negative August, so hopefully after it, if we do have a bearish September, we can have a positive quarter four, because you could see October, November, two of the most positive months for Bitcoin and crypto. Now on my channel, I talk about other crypto assets, macro charts and indicators, so subscribe to hear more about that. Yesterday, talking about how we are in phase 2 on our way to alt season, and so we are definitely getting closer. Alt season metrics still low, but as far as mining stocks are concerned, they tend to top with Bitcoin, whereas altcoins top after when we have the rotation. So we've been keeping a close eye on miners because they are a good indicator for Bitcoin as well. And speaking of Bitcoin, let's do some technical analysis here. It is holding on the 20-week moving average, that thin red line you see right there. And also, let's go to the daily. When we do a low to high, we had a 618 pullback. So we'll see what happens here. We do have the 50-day moving average as well as that 382 right here at about 113, 114. So if Bitcoin gets to that level and then stalls out, I'd be worried about it going lower. Next area lower would be around 104. And really the most major concern for me right now, as far as Bitcoin is concerned, is the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence, just turned red. And that tends to not be a good thing when it turns red on the weekly. You can see the last couple times got down to the 50-week moving average, then bounce. So if that were to happen again, the moving average, it is moving up, but you'd be seeing Bitcoin get down to the 100K area. So do be on the lookout for that and these levels as far as, worst case scenario, buy the dip opportunities. Anyways, let's get into the Bitcoin mining stocks. And first, we got to start out with Iron. Usually we start out with Mara, but this is a recent development. Iron, formerly Iris, has jumped Mara, and as you can see, it is revisiting its former all-time highs that it had when it IPO'd. So it is at that $29 mark. Here at the IPO on the chart is at 27. So sky's the limit, and we've compared Iron to, it looks very similar to the Ethereum chart. We can overlay that actually. Let's add Ethereum here. It's interesting how some of these mining stocks, either they sort of match Bitcoin or Ethereum. Iron, very similar to Ethereum, I think. There is some similarities in that chart there, but I am cautious. I'm not going to be chasing Iron at these levels, especially since April at that bottom. It has already ran up. It has already ran up in the span of, almost 5 months, close to 500%, 450%. So it is a little bit detached here from the moving averages. Anytime an asset gets detached, you don't want to chase it. If you chase it, you'll probably end up experiencing a decent sized pullback. So, not saying iron does have to top here, it could keep going. But if we draw our low to high fib and it is going to stall out around these levels, this is how you can take a look for some discounts. And I think as far as some of these discount areas, I'd be looking at the 382 to point 0.5, somewhere between 1239 to 1525. That 382, I think, would be the level if all of a sudden we were to see a lot of bearishness across stocks and crypto here soon, which has already been happening. Now, if this thing continues to run, the 1618 fib is right there at around 44.61 or 45. So I would look for some level of profit taking here, but then at around that 45 level. So congrats all you iron holders. Sure, you are feeling pretty good right now. Now, as far as some of us Mara holders, I am one of them. We keep waiting for this one to go up, and it's been in this descending channel. I do believe, once Mara breaks up out of this channel, that it can do great. And, being the number 2 overall holder of Bitcoin behind MicroStrategy, I do think there's reason to be bullish for Mara. And, we were talking about how iron follows Ethereum. We'll take a look at Bitcoin. And as you can see here, not really as much, let's turn it on. It doesn't really follow it as much completely. I don't think it's as correlated. But what I was talking about earlier in the video, remember how miners top with Bitcoin and altcoins tend to top after when we have that rotation. And you can see that on this chart right here, 2017, again, topping even a little bit before Bitcoin. So if all of a sudden these miners are going parabolic and Bitcoin is going to like 150, 200K, something like that, that's probably a sign that alt season is coming soon for some of your cryptos like Chainlink, Jasmine, all those things. But as far as Mara here, I don't hate this level, but I am worried about all this resistance. You see all those weekly moving averages as well as the 0.5 fib. I do think it's a decent area to dollar cost average in, but that's also a heavy area where we could see a rejection. And if so, we could see Mara come down as low as $11 again. I would be a buyer there. But just like I was showing you with iron, if we take a look at the fib, the low to high, we'll go from right here. We can see our discount territories, and it did hit that 0.5. It's had this move up. So down there at around $14, that is another DCA opportunity, and you could just look lower and lower for some of those entries. 618, 13, 23. I'd like that area too, personally. Yeah, but all the weekly moving averages and just the way September might turn even a little bit more bearish for stocks and crypto. I wouldn't mind chipping in a little here, dollar cost average wise, but I'm probably going to be holding on to a little bit of money for this month as far as my budget goes, and seeing if I can get even bigger discounts later this month for Mara. Let's get into Riot next, the number 3 crypto, and see how Riot is looking. And in this descending channel, just recently broke out. You do want to see what happens here at that 0.5. Can it break out of it? The 0.5 overall has been decent resistance. That $16 area, you'd want to see it break. But we are seeing a lower high. We do have the 50-day moving average right around the top area of that channel. Hopefully that can hold and we can rock it up. But if Riot falls back in this discount territory or that descending channel, if it gets to around $11, I think that's not a bad area to pick up some Riot. But it still has to break above $16 roughly before we can see this thing really start to rocket. Let's go to cores. We'll just start flying through these a little quicker now, because a lot of these mining stocks, you might see similar looking charts between each other. Cores hanging around the 50-day moving average, and also staying under, getting rejected by the 786. So, it's getting squeezed. It's probably going to pop one way or the other. And should it pop lower, I do like this 618 area at around 1220. But if it shoots up higher, you can see how it ran into resistance there around its former all-time high near 18 and a half, and that 888 is at around 1643. So those are your levels to watch. For cores, as far as Wolf did pretty well recently. And that's another thing to keep an eye on, is that these miners all of a sudden, one by one, are popping off a little bit. And so if that's the case, again, we may be getting close to the end of the Bitcoin cycle for this year, early next year. But as we can see, Wolf's still doing well, hanging around. What is that? That's the golden pocket area, the 618 to the 65, trying to get above it. I am a little bit concerned about this ascending channel running into the 786 here. And to be clear, all these miners, none of them have to make new all-time highs. And last cycle, I think, I'll use a rainbow chart for this. Last cycle top, there were many altcoins that did well in 2017 that did not do better in 2021. You can look at XRP, Bitcoin Cash. There are many altcoins that hit their 618 to 786 range and never got any higher. And so, admittedly, I'm a little bit nervous about an ascending channel running into that. So, we'll see. Hopefully it does go higher, but it's always possible these don't revisit their all-time highs. So do have a plan, a strategy. If it looks like the metrics, this is part of my plan. If it looks like the metrics are showing that Bitcoin is topping and Wolf is around this area, I'll be okay taking profits, even though it's not as much as I would like. I'd like to see Wolf revisit its all-time highs at around 44. That's where I'd definitely be taking all profits. But if it doesn't get there, it's okay. Sometimes you got to take what you can get, and it's still a great profit for many of us who got Wolf underneath $2. So do watch here what happens in that 618 area to 65, that golden pocket. It is a little detached, but I do like $8 as a possible reentry if it can stabilize there. You see all the moving averages coming up as well. Let's go to Cypher. And I was looking at this chart just a couple days ago because Cypher, all of a sudden, that's why. I think it was in my investing app, and I saw it just popping off, which is good. Congrats all you Cypher holders. As you can see, we had Wolf recently pop off. Iron taking that number one spot. Cores, of course, doing some work. Cypher, Wolf, all these. I think this is definitely the writing starting to be on the wall that, be on the lookout. I do think a Bitcoin top for this cycle is coming soon, within the next year for sure, even within the next 6 months. I'm feeling pretty confident about saying. But anyway, Cypher, it'll probably encounter some resistance there at around $10 with the 888. If it can revisit those former all-time highs, that's 1531. I'm curious where the 1618 is. Should Cypher make some new all-time highs? $24. So could it 3x from here for a Bitcoin cycle top? That'd be pretty neat. We have $40 as well, so that'd be close to a 5x from right now, should it reach those levels. And keep in mind market cap too. If it does a 4x, we're talking 12 billion. 5x, we're talking 15, $16 billion market cap. But yeah, this one's looking great. Let's turn on, I'm sure they are overbought, but let's turn on the stochastic. Yeah, and the stochastic, it is overbought, but let's go to the weekly. The weekly, it still has room to run before it's finished. So I think, that's a good sign for Cypher. But yeah, I have a little bit of Cypher myself, and pretty happy with it right now. So if it were to come back down, we have the 786 former resistance. It could be support at around 693. Let's go to the weekly. Weekly moving averages are even lower. Maybe could it get down as low as $5-6? Yeah, maybe. But I do like when we break above former resistances and then they can become support. Maybe it goes a little lower, like $6. I'm sure there's a fib in there somewhere. We'll do that low to high. This is, again, assuming it tops out soon. And you can take a look at those fibs on the way down for increasing discounts. All right, let's go to CleanSpark. CleanSpark fallen a little bit. It is a mining stock I like as well. But yeah, this one used to be, I think, in the top 5. And as you can see, just hanging out its descending channel, might get down as low as 860. If CleanSpark gets as low as 860, I might have to chip in a little bit, pick up some CleanSpark. But yeah, if it can get above that 618, you can see how it got rejected at the 786. But if it can get above that 618, as well as that descending channel, which are now lined up perfectly, I think this one can also do damage. So, one by one, these different miners are popping off. Should CleanSpark pop off, could it do a 7x from here, maybe even a 10x? Again, consider market cap. Can it get to $27 billion? Last crypto cycle, around that $20 billion mark was the top for some of these miners. So, $30 to $50 billion, especially with inflation, is sort of the area that I'm looking for. So, you can take a look at your price targets based on your fibs that way, a recent high to low, macro-wise. But yeah, if it gets down to 870, I might pick some up. And then if it starts getting above 1250, get excited and make sure you have your profit taking levels now, especially if you're holding onto one of these and all of a sudden it's showing up. Last video was a little shorter, so let me run through these quick. Bit Digital, Bit Farms, and Hive. We'll close off with that. BIT. We'll do Bit Farms first, and running into resistance at its macro 382. I do like that it's higher lows. Anytime you're under 382 and 50-week moving average, you are technically bearish on both fronts, can make new lower lows. And if September is bearish, the 236 would be a good area to revisit around 81 cents. But this is an important level. We have those two major resistances that are the defining levels between being bullish and bearish. So if it can get through here, that's really good. And then we just have to flip these moving averages and make them do a positive golden cross. So the 0.5, $1.93, the 618 was resistance many times before at 285. And if this thing just starts popping off, I could see it doing very well. And definitely get into its 786, if not higher. So right now, if it revisited all-time highs, it's dang near 10x. But as we get lower in these mining stocks, they are more risky. So no reason they have to pop off. Bit Digital, I like this area for support. It is under that 50-week, but we have the channel as well as the 382 fib. We can do, again, that low to high fib just micro-wise and see, it came down to that 618. So if you like Bit Digital, here is really not a bad area. You have the channel, the 382, the 618 micro fib. So not a bad area if you do like Bit Digital to maybe chip away at some. And as far as Hive, we were talking about, someone asked about Hive down here. You got to go to the comments and congrats to whoever that person was, because Hive is starting to flip the script. So they asked about it when it's $1.60, and I said, this one is one of the most dead looking mining stocks, but should it do well, it has the potential. I remember last cycle when I was looking dead in the water at around 50 cents, it got all the way up to $30, which is just, that's crazy. So, yeah, that's like a 60x right there if you're buying in at these bottoms. And you can see, it's topping out before Bitcoin topped. If you look at that date, Bitcoin was topping around April, May, the second top, November, of course. So if Hive pulls that off again, you can see the tops are kind of similar. So I'd be looking for another similar top at around 28 bucks. That's almost a 10x from here. Would I be buying it right now? No, especially with the chart showing that a pullback could be coming if Bitcoin breaks down lower. With the MACD, what's that showing us? But that 236 level, if this is one, again, don't chase. You can always wait for an opportunity. They always come. But if this thing has a little bit of a pullback and you like Hive, don't just buy it because you think it can 10x. Make sure you research it. Make sure you like it. I'm just showing what the charts are showing, and you never want to be chasing. That's a good way to lose money. But if it comes down to these levels again, the low to mid $2, and you like it, it's not the worst area to look at some. So anyways, that's what we got for miners today. Congrats to all of you in Iron. Hopefully us people in Mara and Riot, the top two miners formerly, can experience some of that joy with you as well. Happy I had some Wolf and another one that did, Cypher, that did well recently. So, I think this is starting to show, again, as these miners are popping off one by one, that we may be getting closer to cycle top. So thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful Tuesday or Wednesday. Take care.